Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. I'm out in the garden trying to get some things done before everything freezes here. Come have a walk around with me. I'll show you what's going on here. Not a lot going on, but there's some things going on. You might get a couple ideas here, so come along. Okay, here we are at the entrance. It's a frosty Sunday morning, and still got some things to do in the garden. I thought I'd take you around and give you a look at where things are right now. And you know, at this state of the season, it's the middle of November 2018. These are parsnips here. They still have to come out of the ground. These are the ones I sowed last November, and they got to come out. The ground's starting to freeze up here, and don't get them out soon. They're not coming out, so I'm gonna do that today. See if I can film it. I got some really good results with my parsnips. I'll put a little video in this one here showing the ones from the other parsnips. So this garden here had parsnips in it that were sown in April, and these were the Vessi Seeds Albion, and some of them were like 4 inches across at the top. And I got maybe 30 or 40 pounds out of that, just that 4x10 space, so really happy with that. And what I've done, so I just picked those yesterday, and what I have these are just like wooden squares that I stretch plastic across, and then I put some leaves down the garden, try to make it so that the leaves form a bit of a dome, and you just put that plastic down. And what that'll do is it'll every time it's sunny, it'll increase the amount of heat that's in the garden, and should keep it from freezing, or at the very least keep it from freezing up too badly. And I mean, really what I'm shooting for is to keep the worms and other organisms as active as possible for as long as possible, so that they continue to improve my soil while the garden's just waiting for next season's planting. Same thing here. That's where my beets were. I did the same sort of thing. I haven't decided what I'm going to plant in these places next year. I got all this plastic. I thought I'd get it on before things started to freeze. This was Swiss chard. I picked all the Swiss chard yesterday and ate it for supper. So this dome kept for those that have had Swiss chard, it sort of liquefies if it gets too cold. It's a tough plant, but I find it can't handle the cold. Maybe the plant survives, but the leaves just liquefy once they get exposed to a lot of freezes and frosts and stuff like that. So anyway, it was doing okay under the plastic, but it's just getting colder and colder and colder, and I didn't want to lose it all. And so I picked it all yesterday and pulled them out and winterized the garden. So all I did was throw some leaves on there and put a plastic dome over it. And I've got 3 of these plastic domes, right, made with the wire mesh. You can see my video on how I did that. It's a very useful sort of portable cold frame, I guess is the way to put it, because you can just pop it, as long as your gardens have a similar dimension, right? You can pop them wherever you want them, and they kind of reserve that. So these beds, I'll be able to plant stuff like 1st of March, and it'll be like the 1st of April in there, or even better in a sense, because by the 1st of March the soil will be completely thawed, and the worms, this is my results last year anyway, and the year before, doing experiments like this. 1st of March, the soil, around the edge, like around here, not the case. It's quite cold around the edge, but near the center, right, if you go in about a foot, it's thawed out, and the worms are active 1st of March, give or take, right? So if that's going on, you can plant. So you're really ahead of the game, and you can get a lot of things going doing that. And it's these only cost about 20 bucks to make. That's a pretty good deal, and they'll last about 5 years before the plastic starts to break down. The metal, that mesh there, will last years, right, before it starts to rust out. And I'm sure if you treat it with some sort of rust proofing, they last even longer. I didn't bother. Just lazy. I'll show you what I got going on over here. The whole perimeter of my garden was a strawberry garden. This whole perimeter, the 3 to 4 feet from the walking path to the fence, that was all strawberries. And last fall, you can see going down here, right? Last fall I mulched it with tons and tons of seaweed from a different beach where I don't normally get seaweed. And that beach borders a big field, and I took the seaweed from way, way, way high up on the beach. So it wasn't stuff that had just washed up. It had been there for like years perhaps, right? And I thought, oh, this is really, you know, rotten stuff. It's going to be great. And I'm sure it was great in terms of feeding the soil. But it was full of amaranth, lamb's quarters weeds, full of it. And these gardens, the strawberry gardens, just went totally to hell. So that's an opportunity to reorganize the space. So I've started doing that here, and I'm chip away at it until the ground gets too frozen to work. But I decided to change the configuration so I could get more growing space out of that area and make these sort of like you know, keyhole type gardens where I got this is a 4x6, and I got a little space in here where I can, you know, access them. Nice, you know, just 2 feet there, so lots of room to move around, maneuver. And a little sort of nothing garden in the middle there, but something you plant, maybe some sort of vining thing that'll go up on the fence. Right, and then another one of these, and I'll just sort of continue all the way around with that approach. I got a whole bunch of lumber. You can go to lumber yards, and sometimes they'll have a pile of stuff called seconds, and that's just lumber that's not perfect. They usually sell it for half or 1/3 price. These are just 2x6. I would have liked to have had something heavier like these rough cut 2x6, but the guy that sells these wasn't answering the phone. And I had a certain window of time where I had rented a truck, and I had one weekend to gather these materials, so I had to just go with what I could get. Anyway, so all the way down here, instead of the gardens that are there right now, that 1, 2, 3, there's going to be gardens that go horizontally, 1, 2. So I think it's going to greatly increase the amount of arable land, if you want to use that term, right? The amount of land that I can get stuff out of, and get a lot more out of this garden using the same space, which is great. That's efficiency. That's what I like. I put plastic over. This is carrots, but it froze. So I put this plastic. It's going to be sunny today, so I'm hoping I can come out here around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and hopefully this plastic is thawed it out enough that I can get the carrots out of the ground. You know, it's so cold now that, and it's not going to get much warmer, that all my root vegetables have to come out of the ground, and they're just going to freeze, right? So it's really handy to have these plastic squares, because you can put them away. These things take up a ridiculous amount of room, right? I just fire them in the woods over there. It doesn't matter for me. I got lots of land. But if you don't have that option, right, I would go with these, because they do. There's lots of ways. You know, I'll play with these this March and show you how you can even turn these into sort of like temporary cold frames. There's a lot you can do with just these sheets. But the great thing about them is you can put them away and they don't take up a lot of room, right? Just lean them against a wall somewhere. Lean them against the wall of your shed or something. Kale. Still harvesting kale, and it doesn't look very happy right now because it's had a damn cold night, to quote Avril Lavigne. You know, see how they kind of droop down. Oh my God, it's cold, right? They droop down like that. But you know, as the sun gets stronger in the sky today, and as it warms up maybe a couple degrees, they'll pick back up and they'll sort of keep going. And so you can continue to grow and harvest kale, you know, depending on the year, well into December. Although it you know, the growth rate is slowed down considerably. I mean, really, I'm really not growing kale as much as the kale is waiting to be eaten and growing extremely slowly right now. So, you know, it's once it gets so cold that the kale can't thaw out, it will dehydrate and fall apart, right? So you can't just leave it in the ground indefinitely. You can leave it in the ground as long as it thaws out every day at some point, right? But if it's not thawing out, then there's no circulation going on within the leaves, and it'll dehydrate and just look crappy and get all papery and brown and die, and then you lose all that good stuff. So I mean, I'll keep harvesting like this, and maybe 1st of December, give or take, whatever's left I'll take in and freeze up what's left. I've frozen a lot of kale this summer, and I made videos about that. I had a lot of kale sitting in my freezer waiting, ready to go, but for now I can still pull it out of my garden. We had some last night with the Swiss chard. These rock gardens, I've mulched them just using grass clippings, and you know, these will freeze up and thaw out next year, and I don't really do anything fancy with them. It's good to have the contrast where you've got sort of like, you know, using all this technology and cheating over here, and then you're just sort of doing them medieval style over here, right? You still get good results. It's just the timing's different, right? But there's a lot of things you can get things going early in here, right? And then if it's a transplantable type thing, you could move it into these later on, right? So I haven't planned out my garden for next year. I got no idea where things are going to go. I haven't really given it much thought, but definitely have to do that in the winter months. Strawberries, haven't mulched them yet. I got to get some straw over them. This is an interesting observation. So this is a kale plant that I jammed in. This whole bed was a garlic last year, and this is a kale plant. And I didn't make a video of it because I just didn't find the time, but lots of people, and I used to subscribe to this theory, but practice and experience has taught me to the contrary. I jammed this kale in with this was an entire bed of garlic. To see, because lots of people will say, oh, you put the kale in with garlic and the garlic will keep pests away. No, it doesn't. I mean, this kale has grown well since it's gotten cold because all the pests are gone. But during like July, August, this was attacked by, and I didn't treat this one. All my other kale, I sprayed them with the BTK, and I would early in the season I put a bit of slug bait down, but this poor guy just left to fend for himself, and he was attacked mercilessly by slugs, snails, cabbage moths, everything you can think of. I mean, the plant still lived, and it actually, if this whole bed had been kale, would have gotten a lot of kale out of it in the fall, right? Once it got cold, let's say late September, and a lot of the pests sort of started moving out of town, this plant became quite productive, because despite the fact that it is being eaten by pests, it's it developed a good root system, and it lived anyway. Anyway, interesting experiment. This is kind of neat here. This is one of my trellises that I made with the jute twine. You can see that it's practically dismantled itself, right, just from winds and stuff like that. Just to give one more illustration of how the jute twine, which I use to make these, string them up like a fishing net, it only lasts a season, and then it just falls apart. There's not much left to do to pull this apart. I haven't mulched or done anything here. I've just left it as is. Just a good mulch on that, but I should pull those poles out before they freeze in place. I might just pull the poles and take a weed whacker to cut the, this was beans, this was all beans. I might just take a weed whacker to it and cut it down that way. Here's the compost tent. If you watch that video, I'm not going to talk about it here, but that's a neat little trick. I wanted to do that for more of these gardens. I might do it with, if I find this to thaw out one day, if we get a string of warm days and this thaws out, I think I'll build another compost tent here. Right, I would like to have done that for all of these, but you only have so much time and you just do what you can. These two gardens are gardens I moved strawberries to quite late in the season, like October maybe. But there's evidence of new growth, right? You can see, like here, right? Like there's an old leaf, it's got that discoloration, but that's a new leaf. It's a different color. See how that leaf there is a nice green color, right? So, I mean, it looks like the roots took, and the plants have found a new home. Whether the roots have developed enough in this new space to handle a winter, we'll see. But another couple weeks, I mean, there's still the ground. They're still thawing out, and I think there's still some action going on here. Just like with my kale, right? I mean, strawberry's a tough plant, so I'm not gonna cover these over yet. I want the sun to get at them, and anything they can do to situate themselves before the freeze up, I want them to be able to do. So I'm going to leave them for another couple weeks before I mulch them. And all I do to mulch these is I put about 3 inches of straw over them. That's it. Cold frames. What's going on with the cold frames? Well, this is the one on the left, or sorry, the far right. I planted spinach here around, I don't know, the 1st of October. Just to do a little experiment to show Not a lot of growing goes on in a cold frame when your sunlight decreases. And this is healthy soil and there's plenty of water and everything's fine. And the spinach germinated just fine, but you know, these are less than 2 inches high. And I don't imagine they're really going to take off till probably mid to late February or March. We just don't get a lot of sun here. We get light, right? But it's foggy and overcast, and the reason some people get better results with cold frames in the winter is because they have more actual sun shining down out of the sky, whereas here we've got sun shining through, trying to shine through fog and clouds and things. So it just doesn't make a lot of heat that way. Got a neat looking latch. See if this. Whoops! Whoa! Easy. Kind of a neat looking latch here. This is just some piece of metal I found, and I put 2 nails here. You can just put a pin through like that. Seems to work pretty good. So this is a Kale Garden here, and this is a a cold frame with kale in it, and you can see just by the way this kale has sort of bent down instead of being up like this, it's down. That it was cold in this bed last night. The ground isn't frozen, there's no frost, but just by the shape of these I can tell it got cold in here last night, because these will sort of pick up as they warm up again. Anyway, so I mean, these are all just kale that I moved from other parts of my garden about a month ago. Just put them in here for the winter to see how much growing we can get going, and I'm hoping some of these can go to seed. I find I don't know why, but when I leave kale out in my gardens, it just doesn't go to seed. But if it's protected like this, it seems to be able to survive the winter and go to seed the following year. So we'll see how that works. I got a variety here that this one's with the white stems. I bought kale as a transplant one year, and I left it in the ground and it grew and it created all these seeds, and I've been getting this great kale out of those seeds. I got like 2 pill bottles full of these seeds. So I'm going to run out eventually. So I've been trying to get it to go to seed for a couple of years since, and it seems like the only way to get it to go to seed is to overwinter it in some sort of protected area. And the particular plant that had gone to seed before was in a little, sort of temporary greenhouse all winter. That's the only reason it survived, I think. And there's lots of people that say that kale, it just fell down. Lots of people that say that kale will survive the winter no matter what. But all my kale, I had a bed over there full of kale. I left it out all winter, and I waited till the middle of May. Nothing happened, right? And around here, the kale will start growing before that if it's survived the winter. Yeah, it just didn't make it. There was no sign of life at all. It just died. This cold frame also has just some kale. It's got some Swiss chard. Oh, that Swiss chard got cold. You can tell by that dark color. And some parsley. Just tough things that can take a winter. I'm curious to see how well this Swiss chard does over the course of the winter. But and this is an interesting kale here. Remember I told you how I saved seeds one year? Well, I winnowed those seeds in my driveway that year. That was like 3 years ago. Winnowing just means you separate the seeds from the casings and stuff like that. So a bunch of seeds got dropped in the driveway, and every year I have kale come up in the driveway from that one, a loose smattering of seeds that went into the gravel. So this is one of the plants that just grew in my driveway this year. And it didn't amount to much, and it isn't very big. But I thought I'd give it a nice little home for the winter anyway, and see what happens. Yeah, we got a bit of sun. Finally, the sun's broken through the sky. That's nice. Anyway, so that's the cold frames. Not much going on here. Out here I had big plans for this garden space. I'd wanted to make a terraced garden all the way down this fall. I got the wood to do it, but I've just not been able to find the time. And that's no big deal. I can do it next spring. I mean, you do what you can, right? That's all you can do. Alright, so that's what's going on here. We still got some things we can harvest. We still got some stuff going on. I got some carrots and parsnips to pull. I got some greens. I got all that Swiss chard I got to deal with. And still got some kale going on and a few things going on in the cold frames. So I hope that gave you some good ideas. I hope it's not too windy. I hope you can hear me. Sorry for the wind. I tried a couple of modifications to my camera this time to see if I could minimize the wind effect. We'll see what happens with that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com, and until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.